Hello everybody, this is Dr. Amjad Razal and welcome to another video from the series on the 8 components of lesson. Thank you for watching the last 3 videos in which I have explained the concept of preparation, background building and comprehensive input, and in this video I am going to explain the strategies, which is the 4th component. The strategies play an important role in making any lesson successful. It allows the teachers to find the real aspects to change or modify that match the learning styles of the students to begin the growth of learning. Normally, these strategies are spoken and introduced in a common language as if a plan A did not work, we must try plan B. And if plan B did not work or doesn't work, we must try plan C. The same is the case with teaching. When one method is not helping the students understand the concepts, we must try the second method. And when the second method is not helping the students acquire the knowledge, we must try the next method, the another method. We must keep doing this until all the students, according to their own different styles, are able to acquire the learning objective that we set before beginning the lesson. But remember one thing, these strategies must make the lesson easier for the students to understand. It should not complicate the lesson. The teachers must try the first method, second method, the third method or any other method just to make the content of the lesson easier and understandable for the students. Okay, the teacher must not complicate the lesson by using unwanted strategies or the strategies which do not have any effect. Okay, so this is a very important point that the teachers must know when they are preparing for the lesson, or they are putting in some strategies to see how beautifully they can explain this lesson to the students. Ample opportunities are provided to the students to make learning better. When we say that there are different types of learners in the classroom, so be it a maths teacher or a science teacher, an English teacher or any other subject teacher, when the teacher prepares a lesson, okay, she has to put in some strategies and check how that particular lesson can be taught to different types of learners within the given time. As you know this very well that a normal period in India, especially even if it is a CBSE school or an ICCSE school, IGCSE or any state board school, normally the period will be of 30 minutes or maximum 40 minutes. So in these 40 minutes, what the teacher should be doing to help these 3 different types of learners acquire the knowledge according to their own style. Okay, here you may tell me it is impossible, as some of the teachers have been telling this to me whenever I have been there to train those teachers. They said, sir, in 40 minutes, going behind each and every child is really tough and it is impossible to help them learn or teach them in a way they understand according to their learning style. But let me tell you frankly, this is what we call the strategy, right? What is the strategy that you utilize to help all types of learners learn in the given time? If I'm asking you to give me an answer to this question, so you may tell me, sir, the teacher can divide 40 minutes of that particular period into 4 different parts. Like the beginning 10 minutes, the teacher can spend behind the students who are auditory learners. The next 10 minutes, the teacher will be behind the visual learners, and the next 10 minutes will be with the kinesthetic learners, and the last 10 minutes will be for practice and application. So if you say the teacher, when she is dividing a period in 4 different parts and she is willing to spend the time with different types of learners, will this strategy work? So I can tell you this strategy may work, but apart from that, there are different other strategies that the teachers may utilize. Okay. So some of the teachers may use their own strategies according to their point of view, their own opinion, and as they know the different types of learners in the classroom and what do they need, the teacher come up with the strategy that helps those types of learners. And apart from that, there are different teachers. As you know, everybody is different in their own way. They are unique. Like each one of us is unique in our own way. So I may come up with my own strategies, you may come up with your own strategies, and the other teachers, they can try their own strategies. But these strategies should be seen in the classroom when the teachers are doing that, utilizing them, and the students are getting the benefit by utilizing, by coordinating with that particular strategy and learning the real concept or the real matter in the classroom itself. So in short, if I say, whatever the teacher has prepared to teach in those 30 minutes or 40 minutes, the strategy will help the teachers execute the planning in a very successful manner. I mean to say, by the end of the period, whatever the teacher was supposed to teach the auditory students or the visual students or the kinesthetic students, by the end of the classroom or in the end, the teacher, when she evaluates whether the students have acquired the learning objective, and when she checks with different types of learners, she will find that all types of learners have acquired the learning objective. So the strategy will help the teachers make it possible. Apart from the regular strategies that the teachers may use in the classroom, there are a few more strategies that the teachers may execute, may try in the classroom to see how the students are responding. So number one, if I tell you, is grouping configuration. Like the teacher makes some small groups of 5 members or 3 members each in the classroom, where the teacher will explain how the group should be responding to the teacher's instruction, how the group should be acquiring the learning, acquiring the knowledge, and how they should be coordinating with each other. So the first thing is the grouping configuration. The second thing, if I tell you, is individual learning. The teacher here prepares a worksheet for different types of learners, and all those worksheets are given to them, so that they take those worksheets, they read out, they follow the instruction of the teacher, and they write something on it, and the teacher understands how well they have acquired the knowledge and how well they are doing with the worksheet. Okay, the third strategy or the third method can be it's pairing with one another. As you know, there are students who love to sit with their friends, and here what happens, the teacher makes them sit together, and the teacher instructs them how they should be responding and coordinating with each other. The teacher will be monitoring all the groups in the classroom, all the pairs that are there in the class, and the teacher explains how they should be helping each, like everyone, like one boy with the other boy or one girl with another girl. So when they sit together, how they should be helping one another to learn and acquire the learning objectives, to practice the lesson in the classroom. And the last one is about the whole class, where the teacher orally asks some random questions, or the teacher prepares some PowerPoint presentations or shows some photos or videos. When the students see that, they respond to the teacher's questions and they learn. So here I have mentioned only 4, but when you are an effective teacher, you will know more than me that what are the other best or better strategies to help the students learn and acquire the lesson in the classroom. So you must be knowing that very well. Just execute that. If I give you an example how one lesson should be taught to different types of learners in the classroom. So in higher class, there is a lesson on force, called force. Okay. So the teacher, she does not simply start explaining the content by reading out the paragraphs that are there in the textbook and explain them to the students. No. What the teacher does, the teacher explains the different forces that are there. Like maybe from the textbook, the teacher may start saying that there is a normal force, there is a gravitational force, there is a frictional force, there is tension, there is magnetic force, there is electrostatic force, and the other different types of force as well. So what the teacher does, when the teacher knows and recognizes that there are different types of learners, so the teacher explains them in a way that the auditory students, they are able to focus on the key words that the teacher is using to explain the difference between one force and the other force. So using those key words, the teacher recalls those keywords, and the auditory students, when they are hearing carefully, so they will be able to focus on those keywords, and they learn the entire difference, the distinguish, they will try to distinguish between one force and the other force easily. And when it comes to visual learners, the teacher shows some photos or videos, or the teacher takes some object to the classroom to explain how these different types of forces are really different, like how they are different with one another. Okay. And the third, the kinesthetic students, the teacher gives them the objects to use them and show the teacher how the force is being applied there and how that force is particularly different from the other force. Okay, so if I tell you about the differences in these forces, there are different objects to use, and using those different objects the teacher can explain all the 6 forces that I have mentioned in this video, in this short clip, in just 10 to 15 minutes or maximum 20 minutes. Okay, but if the teacher is not using this strategy, how to make this simple and easier for the students to understand, the teachers will take 10 days or maybe 15 days to cover up the entire lesson. Okay, so using the simple strategy, one particular lesson here or the different types of forces from that particular lesson can be taught in one period itself, and all the learners, when they recall, when they see, and when they do and practice, they will be able to tell all the answers effectively, and that is what the lesson is, right? When you ask them what this particular force is, they tell you in their own way, in their own words. Okay, now here you don't have to depend on the words that are there in the textbook so that the student should memorize them and then tell that to you. No, you ask and they respond to you, and you understand they understood what this force is. That is what the meaning of effective teaching is. The skill is achieved, the students have understood, that's it, job done. Here you are seeing a variety of questions or tasks that provide higher order thinking skills and promote healthy learning. The teachers must ask some random questions in the classroom to enable the students, to make the students use their critical thinking or their higher thinking, higher order thinking, to come up with an answer or the solution. The teacher, just to make this simple or just to make it easy, the teacher may ask some questions, and the teacher may give them some hints that give the student a little bit of an idea what the answer should be or what the solution is going to be. When the students are not able to grasp it, and when the teacher understands, the teacher gives them the second hint or the clue that hints the students at what the answer is going to be and what the answer should be. So when the teacher tries something like this, maybe in a week or two, the student will be able to develop their higher order thinking skills, and also the questions that the teachers should be asking the students should be from the higher order thinking category. Okay, whatever the teacher is teaching in the classroom, be it a science teacher or a maths teacher or any other teacher, she may be asking these random questions. What do you think, why this particular thing is like this? What makes you think that this is like this? Okay, how do you believe, how do you say that this particular thing is like this? Okay, I have just quoted 3 questions here, but if you imagine when the teachers, when they go to different classes, the teachers may ask many questions like, how is this happening, can you tell me? Okay, what do you think about this particular thing, give me your opinion. Okay, so the teacher asks some questions and the students, they respond. The teacher should give them some time to listen to their answers and then appreciate if their answer is right and encourage if the answer is wrong, just to come up with another answer. That's it. Okay, and at the same time, the teachers must also allow the students to ask questions to the teachers, whatever the question may be it a small question or a big question or a very critical question. The teachers must allow the students to ask these questions. Okay, so that by 1 week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, slowly and gradually, the students will be developing their thinking, higher order thinking skills. Like they will be falling into the higher order thinking category from coming out from the lower order thinking category. The teachers must not do this like in the classroom. Sometimes when a difficult question is asked by the students, the teachers, they try to hide their face, or they say, oh my god, kya पूछ लिया इसने, what did he ask, how am I going to respond? And just to save themselves from this embarrassment, what they do, okay, I'm going to respond to this question tomorrow. Today the class is over. Let's meet tomorrow. Okay. This is just one thing, but there are other methods and tactics that the teachers use in the class just to avoid that kind of embarrassment when they don't know the answer. It happens. Okay, we are all human beings. It's not something like we are computers or we are robots to answer all the questions. When you don't know something, tell that you don't know. There is no shame, there is no embarrassment in that. Okay, but don't skip those questions, so that the students, they will have those confusion in their mind, that confusion in their mind, and because of that confusion they will be again falling behind in terms of acquiring new skills and new concepts. Okay, the teachers themselves, they actually make the students go behind, fall behind, by not responding to their queries on time, and keeping that big confusion, the cloud of confusion on top of their head. Okay, some techniques that assist students understanding, like I said previously, whenever you ask any question, give them some hints or clues. Okay, or if you have some photos or videos or anything that you can show to the students, so that when they look at that particular thing and they try to collect an idea of what the answer should be and how the answer is going to be, when they are not able to understand what the answer is, give them the second clue or the third clue, the hint. Okay, when they listen that from you, they try to understand what exactly the answer is going to be. They respond to your questions and they try to answer, and if the answer is right, appreciate them, and if the answer is wrong, just allow them to think over it again and again and come up with a possible answer or the solution to the question that has been asked in the classroom. So the teachers, they can try a variety of techniques. This is just one thing that I have mentioned, but the teachers, they know their students very well. Okay, so when they ask so many questions, or when the teachers try different variety of techniques in the classroom, there will be different results, or the result will be really amazing. The students will be productive, they will be amazing, and the teachers will find that the teaching and learning is really fun, becoming fun in the class. That's it guys, this is all about the strategies that I have mentioned in this video. Thank you for watching this video until the end, and to learn and understand what is the next component, please watch my next video. Thank you.